Hello and welcome to another program of A Closer Look. To begin this episode, this year alone, Papua New Guinea played host to various world leaders who were invited to the country to hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister James Marape. Most recently, the President of France, His Excellency Emmanuel Macron, traveled to PNG with his delegates. This stopover was part of his 5-day visit to selected Pacific Island countries. Reporter Amanda Ilaitia with this story.
Prime Minister James Marape described President Emmanuel Macron's visit. President Macron's visit comes on the eve of the final investment decision.
Papua New Guinea and the Republic of France have an official diplomatic relation that dates back to 1976. On the 28th of July 2023, the President of France, His Excellency Emmanuel Macron, paid an historic one-day visit to PNG to hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister James Marape and other members of Parliament. During his visit, President Macron revealed the two major objectives of France. The first is their Indo-Pacific strategy, launched 6 years ago, in which their overseas territories are fully engaged to open a path in this region that allows for an Indo-Pacific space that is free and in peace. And it is on this pathway that France is orientating itself with two main objectives: climate change and the strategic and military security. The second major objective is to build a new international consensus that reconciles the fight against poverty and the fight against climate change and its impacts on protecting biodiversity, which is a challenge. On Thursday, the 27th of July, just close to midnight, President Macron and his delegates arrived to a 21-gun salute and a warm traditional welcome at the APEC International Terminal. He was met by his counterpart PM Marape, other state ministers and members of parliament. He then took his leave in preparation for an eventful bilateral visit the next day. The next morning, President Macron and PM Marape visited the country's first national park, Varirata, in the Hiri Koyari district. The visit to the national park was so President Macron could experience the diverse PNG flora and fauna. Both leaders were greeted by local traditional dancers at the entrance of the park. Then they took a stroll through the forest and had a one-on-one conversation in which they discussed focus areas of development within the environment conservation and climate change space. PM Marape spoke about their walk through the park.
It's a conversation that cannot be made alone, and we are privileged to have a very, very senior global leader who decided not just to walk, but make a statement that these global resources and assets must be properly managed to the benefit of indigenous people who live in custodian of this space or this forest, to the nation that holds these resources together, and also for the benefit of planet Earth's children, not just today, but children to come into the future. So I'm happy, privileged that he has taken the walk, historic walk.
President Macron also shared the same sentiments at the end of their walk. He urged all Papua New Guineans to take care of their natural rainforests.
Enjoying your forests and all the species. We hear the birds and saw the forests, and I think this is the best illustration of the strategy we have. Mr. Prime Minister perfectly described what is at stake. This is the present and the future of planet, and there is no alternative. Sometimes you can have alternative in your life. It's not the case. There is no planet B, as I said.
Correct.
And the best way to preserve it is exactly to have the oxygen and capture the carbon. And this is why your country, thanks to your forest, by the way, has a positive balance sheet in terms of carbon, and is one of the good examples of this world. So we will help you to protect your forest, to have a good conservation policy, meaning preserving your biodiversity, preserving your forests, and respecting your people, all the tribes and indigenous people, because they know this forest, and we are not just speaking about trees, but as well culture and way of life, and your own history, and human biodiversity as well. And this is a holistic approach. So we are very proud and very honored to be here with you, to be a fair and reliable and sustainable partner, to help you to protect your trees and your forests, and to protect as well your ocean, and to be together aligned in order to have a sustainable development policy. Because one of the messages I want to convey to your people is that this is not just protecting, but this is creating values and opportunities as well for your children and the generation to come. They will have a better life because we protect this forest, which is good for you and the planet. But by having this strategy and following and backing your strategy of taking control for your country and valuing and creating a complete value chain, creates much more jobs and smart jobs. So this is I would say, a full package. But I want to thank you for this work, and thank you for this common strategy on forest. Together we are committed with some of our friends to clearly be the advocate of a forest policy, a global forest policy, especially in your country. Thank you so much.
To wrap up their visit to Varirata, both leaders engaged in a short Q&A session with representatives from the School of Excellence, Sogeri National High. Here is President Macron answering a question asked by a student on both governments' plans for biodiversity preservation.
What we are building together and what we launched today is a country package. And this package is, we will protect the forest. This is not just a question of your country. This is our issue as well. So we will put money, creating value chain and jobs thanks to this forest. And this is how to preserve this treasure, how to preserve biodiversity and carbon capture, and how to create at the same time good jobs for your people.
The country leaders then journeyed back to Port Moresby for the next part of the program, which was the signing of 4 agreements between the independent state of Papua New Guinea and the Republic of France. The first signing was a declaration of intent on sustainable ports infrastructures between the French Development Agency, the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, Australian High Commission in PNG, and the PNG Ports Corporation Limited. An agreement was also signed on greening the financial systems between the French Development Agency, Bank of PNG, and the Global Green Growth Institute. The next agreement signed was worth 800,000 euros or 3.1 million kina. This is a financing agreement on energy transition between the French Development Agency, PNG Power Limited, and an energy public utility from New Caledonia. And lastly, a contribution agreement was signed between the European Union and Expertise France for the Forests, Climate Change and Biodiversity Project at a cost of 133 million kina. In addition, a declaration of intent on France status in PNG between PNG Foreign Affairs Department and Expertise France. The visit slowly wind down with dance performances from representatives from Managalas in the Oro province. The bilateral meet ended with both leaders addressing the media. When questioned on the intention of the visit in terms of political interests, this was PM Marape's response.
Today's visit by His Excellency President Macron, never at one time he raised the issue of he wants to be more powerful than others, or this is bad and this is good. We converse in what is good for humanity and what is good for PNG, Pacific and French relationship. That's the type of approach we should be engaged upon.
President Macron also shared his take on the same question.
Souscris à ce que vient de dire totalement Monsieur le Premier ministre. L'objectif de notre stratégie Indo-Pacifique n'est pas de rentrer en compétition ni avec la Chine ni avec les États-Unis d'Amérique, parce qu'on peut avoir des ambitions tout en restant lucide.
PM Marape concluded the historic visit by highlighting its achievements.
It was a very, very fruitful bilateral visit by the head of the seventh biggest economy on the face of planet Earth. France is a big nation, and his arrival into our country, we did not take it lightly. It was just like President Biden who would have come, or any other world leaders who would have come. He arrived in that level of leadership into our country, brought with him two leaders of the Pacific, the President of the French Polynesia and President of New Caledonia, as well as two ministers of state and all his delegation. It was very fruitful. Some of the key outcomes in that meeting, it was not just walk in the park up in the Quarry Mountains. It was a statement we were making to the world that forests of this earth needs to be managed and preserved and harvested in a right manner, having sustainability deep in the practice of forest resource.
It was revealed that the visit is a portrayal of PNG and France's strengthened partnership.
We will go for a break and return with more. Stay with us. Welcome back to a closer look. The need to treat cancer in the country is vital. With proper facilities and adequate equipment in place, that is the way forward. With the upcoming 57th Medical Symposium to be held in Papua New Guinea in the coming months, CEO of Port Moresby General Hospital, Dr. Paki Molumi, has given an insight on the need to address treatment of cancer in the country.
In a recent conference held at the School of Medical and Health Sciences in Port Moresby, saw the announcement of the upcoming 57th Medical Symposium to be staged at the Stanley Hotel in Port Moresby in September. The symposium's theme is Holistic Approach to Cancer in PNG. Every year, Papua New Guinea sees about 1,800 women die of cervical cancer from almost 400,000 cases detected. For breast cancer, 1,600 patients die every year from 4,000 diagnosed. With that, Chief Executive Officer of Port Moresby General Hospital, Dr. Paki Molumi, emphasized on the lack of cancer treatment facilities in Papua New Guinea. Firstly, Dr. Molumi stated that there is no cancer radiotherapy service.
Now, there's no cancer radiotherapy service, especially that component of the treatment of radiotherapy. Even the chemotherapy service as well. So we are not really up to the standard of providing good cancer care as far as chemotherapy is concerned. The medicines are very expensive and sometimes not available. That's why many of our Papua New Guineans who can afford are now going overseas to Singapore, to Philippines, and to Australia to seek cancer treatment.
With that, he explained the process of cancer treatment.
To ideally treat a cancer patient, you will first need to see a doctor with the problems that you have. Then the doctor will have to do some tests. They have to do X-rays, ultrasound scans, ask you a few questions. Then if they find out that, okay, you possibly have a cancer somewhere, then they will get a tissue of that wherever. Then you see a pathologist. The tissue undergoes histopathology, and they will be able to tell us what the cancer is. So the imaging will tell you how far this thing has spread through the image, and the histopathology will tell you what it is. So once you know what it is and how far it has extended in your body, then you plan the treatment accordingly. And also once you know the type of cancer, you can say you do surgery, We do chemotherapy, or we can do both, or radiotherapy. So in Port Moresby, you have the specialist here. You can provide a radiology service, and the only histopathology service for cancer diagnosis in Port Moresby. So to speak, the diagnosis of cancer and possibly treatment of surgery was done in Port Moresby. And we have the radiotherapy service provided in Ley, so through the Cobalt machine. So this service has not been provided for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years because the Cobalt machine is non-functional.
Moreover, another factor lacking in the space of cancer treatment, especially for the treatment of breast cancer, is that there is no early diagnostic program.
Even in that as well, we don't have an early diagnostic program. For example, for breast cancer, which you need to screen using a mammogram or cervical cancer screening programs. Those programs are not well coordinated properly in the country. Because if you want to provide very good cancer service that you want to get a good outcome, which is cure, you need to diagnose them early. There's no point in treating when patients already present them late. So all of these things have to be provided in a more holistic way.
The challenge identified in the urge to fight cancer is that the country is lacking human resources or cancer specialists.
Human resource is one. We can build infrastructures and we can have all this, but human resource. As far for cancer, we don't have cancer doctors, radiation therapists, and oncologists in the country. So we've recruited 2 oncologists. We've developed a curriculum, which has been passed by the University Council. So once this facility is up, we're going to start training our own doctors using those experts who's going to come in at least for 4 years so that we can train our own Papua New Guineans to become cancer specialists so that we can beef up the numbers and we can build another facility in Momase or in the islands region. Currently, it's not good to talk about building facilities everywhere when you don't have the human resource who's going to run those facilities.
Furthermore, Port Moresby General Hospital is providing the cancer service in a more holistic approach, where Dr. Malumi emphasized on this.
We are building 3 cancer bunkers, 2 of which will have the latest linear accelerator. We're trying to move away from the old-fashioned Cobalt to linear accelerators, which are the latest form of cancer radiotherapy treatments. And we'll have a brachytherapy unit for treating cervical cancer, a chemotherapy unit. We are also improving the lab so that we can do diagnostic. And we've just installed a mammogram, and we are doing the cervical cancer screening program so that we provide the cancer service in a holistic way so that it's one-stop shop. In that way, we don't need to allow patients to move around, but all services are provided at the same facility. And we want to stop many of our Papua New Guineans who are going overseas, raising exuberant amount of money to go and seek treatment in Singapore, in Philippines, or in Australia, because our kina is going out of the country. So we provide those services in the country. We keep our kina in the country. Not only that, but this facility is supported by international atomic agencies and many of the international organizations, so that the PMGH facility will be a facility for the entire Pacific Islands outside of New Zealand and Australia, so we can drive medical tourism.
The fight for cancer is crucial, in which both government and non-government organizations are taking the approach to educate and provide awareness on healthy lifestyles people can make in order to combat cancer. With the upcoming medical symposium, all health experts across the world are expected to attend and discuss more holistic approaches to address cancer in Papua New Guinea.
We take a break here and return on the other side with more. Welcome back to A Closer Look. Giving the unfortunate opportunities in life is what keeps the Kumura Foundation going in the remote parts of Usino Bundi in the Medang province. Let's take a closer look at the Kumura Foundation, which looks after orphans and children living in Usino-Bundi area, providing them with education opportunities.
Usino-Bundi district in the Medang province is one of a remote district with a dire need for government services such as health, education and road infrastructures. The district is geographically situated between Medang and Simbu province. Seeing that the much needed services are not provided, Kumura Foundation stepped in to assist with the little they can to help provide basic service like health and education in the Bundi Rural LLG, which is around 22 council wards. Founder for Kumura Foundation, Vincent Kumara, said they started providing first aid to people in 2013 and officially started the foundation in 2017, focusing in 4 goals to provide for the children.
So, people looking at some plenty basic services has been dropping. So, the foundation now started focusing on rural health, education, community service, now all sustainable development projects. So if you heard about the Maratha Festival, Snowpass Eco Lodge, we're doing some good things in the tourism space as part of the Sustainable Development Project. We've supported more coffee farmers, we've done workshops for them, we've opened more bank accounts, planted something in the Sustainable Development space. And in child education, we've rolled over 70,000 Kinawera scholarships. We've donated about 20,000 library books, schools in Bundi. Inside North Simbu as well. Right now, people are building one dormitory, smart, and we're accommodating 74 students. And one big player investment or Lily community-based organization in support of the Sir Brian Ball Foundation.
Education is a major goal of the foundation, seeing that reaching Medang is quite difficult due to the distance of the district to Medang. The foundation took the children to Simbu in Gambok district, which is reachable by road. The children were enrolled in schools in Gambok district.
Most of the remote schools in Bundi are not producing students to the university level as we used to about 20 years ago. So a lot of students, about 98%, would come back because they don't have a strong foundation. It's been very shaky. So we want to make sure that at least in this bunch of students, the group of students that we have, at least we can send 15 or 10 of them directly to university. That will really give a facelift to our initiative and also produce human resources, not only for the nation, but also for Bundi.
Recently, during the term to break for schools, the foundation organized a summer art camp where they took the children back to Bundi, where the camp was staged. Students participated in doing paintings and a mini cultural show was held.
But this year, there is a shift because of the funding challenges that we have. So we decided to have something that's different, but also very educational. So we decided to have them exposed to art education so they can appreciate art at a very early age, because some of them will not make it to university through formal education, but they can be extremely talented, and we may not be able to identify those talents unless we put them through this kind of training. So we invited artists and we asked Leslie if he can join the campaign, and he said, no worries. And then he's got connections with other artists, so he sent the invitation to 2 female artists from Australia. They came up all the way from Sydney. And then we have Gazilla Bruder is also one of the top female artists that we have in PNG. Very, very talented. And then we have a local artist in Simbu. 5 artists of different styles, they came up to Snowpass. And we have these 80 students and their teachers, they come together. And it is like, you cannot imagine a thing like this happening in a rural part of this nation. It's an amazing program.
5 artists were there at the camp to inspire the students to paint. One of PNG's very own artists, Leslie Wengembo, 2 poem-based artists, and 2 artists from Australia and a local artist in Simbu attended the summer art camp. The art camp was described as a very successful event where students get to show their talents in painting. Leslie Wengembo said this was a very great initiative from the foundation.
But this is like this avenue of the summer art camp. It's a concept in a way that I feel like it must happen frequently. Because this is a seed, and it must happen every year. I feel like if it's happening more often in a place like remote part of the world, of the country, if you see the possibility there, then there's like so much potential to bring it out to the to the entire nations and to see how it goes. Because the one thing about art is it's a thing that every one of us when you're a kid, everyone are artists, but we forget art when we grow up. There's a saying or something. We forget to do it, but everyone is an artist.
From the camp, they have found out that most of the children are gifted with different talents. Mr. Kumara said these talents should have not come out if the art camp did not happen.
And these are disadvantaged kids in a remote part of this country who would have just wasted their talent if we haven't done something like that. So we will have a follow-on program for them, and the objective of the program is to inspire next generation of artists. And also, this artwork will be exhibited so that we can raise funds to support that initiative. So it's an interesting story behind it because the kids themselves are involved in this painting as well. So we will exhibit, and some of the paintings were already out. Mapai got some of the paintings. The Brian Bell Group and Brian Bell Foundation got some of the masterpieces as well. We did a presentation 2 days ago here in Boracay.
As mentioned earlier that education and health are goals of the foundation, Kumura Foundation had made sure that 10 new aid posts will be built in Bundi Rural to cater for the 22 ward councils.
MIPLA operated a fully dedicated ambulance for the first time for almost 3 years now, donated by Brian Bell Foundation. We've served about 246 patients. MIPLA Ximol come inside Los Cebu Provincial Hospital of Kundiala. Because hardly MIPLA golo walim na golo meding. So MIPLA come also Simbu. In partnership with Cebu Provincial Health. MIPLA make most now. Our work has literally impacted over 20,000 lives in Los remote areas. Right now, one of the biggest undertakings MIPLA got on rural health is we're building 10 community health posts. Bundi got 22 ward areas, council ward areas. But last 15 years or kind of none of these ward areas got active aid posts. So I'm just affecting livelihood, and I'm just affecting health. Basic health service it's not present. MIPLA got one health center in Brahman, Lower Bundi, and MIPLA got Bundi Health Center, but Bundi Health Center, because the road access, I'm just struggling. We have retired community health workers are serving Bundi, and I'm just affecting effective delivery of medical services.
Funding and lack of political will to push forward work in Bundi has always been a challenge for Kumura Foundation. However, Mr. Kumara said this has never stopped them from reaching out to touch lives in the area.
But MIPLA think the support should be consistent. Now, MIPLA been asking for strategic partnership so that Usuna Bundi DDH must see Kumura Foundation is one of the most active and dynamic CBA organizations in the district. So we should partner moving changes in the Facebook district. And that never eventuated. So MIPLA still wait for the opportunity in the country. Yeah.
And thanks to the main sponsor, Brian Bell Foundation, and other sponsors, Kumura Foundation has gone a long way in Bundi Rural. Mr. Kumara said he hopes his story will inspire other elites of the country to do the same in their province and districts. He said there is no time to sit and wait for the government.
We're trying to tell people that there is real need out there, and a small community-based organization can take ownership to at least try and find some solutions. Others can find hope in such a story. So they too can be motivated to do something similar, so that such positive stories need to be told. And many young talented people with energy can go out there and make something positive for the nation. So,
Kumura Foundation was established in 2017 and has been helping the Bundi Rural LLG and Gambog district in Simbu province in providing health and education opportunities. They are currently taking care of more than 50 children. Recently, they have built a new dormitory for the students in Gambog to accommodate them while on school. Most of the students are aged between 6 to young teenagers of 15 years old. The Kumura Foundation story hopes to be an inspiration to others who are thinking of doing the same in their own area.
And that's all the time we have for this episode. Be sure to join us again next week. From all of us here, pleasant viewing and good night.